So good morning or good afternoon, everybody. So it very much depends where you are joining from. As usual, we having our live expert live conversation. So as COP28 kickoff, it has already kicked off, and we can expect some bold new commitment. And one of them is to triple renewables energy generation by the end of this decade. And the future of sustainable finance has never looked brighter. But clearly, there is a lot more that we can do. We all acknowledge that. And in this, what promising to be an electrifying session, so I want to bring you a CEO, somebody who have obviously thought about issues ahead of many other people and figure out how we can bring a solution together. And what we want to do today, we want to uncover how his company, PF Nexus, has pioneered the way for investment in wind, solar, any other innovative green technology can actually move forward. I'm just going to take you inside to show you how this trailblazing platform has evolved from a spark of inspiration into a thriving conduit, channeling abundant capital towards a more renewable global landscape. I wanted to discover, Scott Dillon, right? We overcame early challenges, through passions, persistence, and driven by a mission to accelerate the renewable energy transition in line with COP28 goals. I want you to learn how the platform PM Nexus is empowering large asset owners, but also small, right? It's for everybody and average investors alike to profit with purpose, to finance projects that would deliver the double bottom line returns, both financial and environmental, and with global collaborations, so ramping up renewables energy investment to level we've not seen before. I'd like you to find out how the company, the platform, is carving an industry niche in the intersection between profit and sustainability. So I'd like you to welcome me to help me to welcome, obviously, Scott into this platform to talk a little bit more into details. Scott, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. I can hear you very well. So how are you
Fantastic.
today?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Thanks, Tony, and thanks for the invite to participate in this.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Because as I say, so you've put together a platform I found very, very interesting because I'm using it personally, right? And then I wanted to make sure that I bring you on board just to understand a little bit more about the journey that you went through and what is that you're looking to achieve. But before we dive into that, because I can say to people watching me, please stay put, because what Scott's gonna do for us, it's a little demo of how it works, and you will have the chance to ask questions. Please don't be shy. Ask questions. You can ask questions directly by dropping them into the comment box, but you can also do so by sending me personally a message, and I will relay that in here, and we all will be able to see the question in the screen. But Scott, maybe you want to introduce yourself for people that may not be so familiar about with the face behind PF Nexus.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm Scott Gillam. I'm co-founder and CEO of PF Nexus. My background is in energy and infrastructure finance. So I spent around 13, 14 years financing big infrastructure transactions and kind of moving into the energy space and into renewables, which I've been in now for about 10 years. Of course, renewables has changed a huge amount in that 10 years. It's kind of grown from a tiny little acorn into a huge great oak. But during that time, there's been an awful lot of change, and it's an exciting time, continues to be an exciting time in renewables. And I think what we're doing here is quite unique in that market.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And I wanted to find out, because I'm sure lots of people watching, and I know people are watching, so thank you for watching us, by the way. What actually inspired the creation of PM Nexus? And what was the initial vision behind it? If you can give us some insight there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, based in my career, I worked in a whole different variety of seats in different types of organizations. So I worked in advisors, I worked in developers, like renewable energy developers, IPPs, fund managers, etc. And during this time, when kind of seeing transactions from multiple different viewpoints, I realized that this is a huge market. It's growing very, very quickly. You don't go from zero to a multi-trillion-dollar industry without quite a bit of disruption and quite a lot of change along the way. And I realized that with so much change and with such a dynamic market, nobody really knows who to talk to at what time about transactions. So if you are developing an early stage solar project, maybe you're a landowner or something like that, and you are developing a project, perhaps you need a developer to come in and co-develop it with you and bring in their expertise. Or perhaps you might be looking for an investor at some point during the build out of the project. I've seen loads and loads of scenarios like this kind of throughout my career, and I realized that it's the sort of problem that could be solved by a platform. So this is really kind of what kind of sowing the seed in my mind of kind of what we're doing. And after starting it as a side hustle originally, as a lot of these things happen, we were just getting quite a lot of interest, multi-billion dollars of interest, both in terms of supply and demand on the platform. And we soon realized, wow, maybe we're onto something here. So yeah, that's kind of how things started.
Okay, that's great. So obviously you quit the job, focus into that, and now you're hoping to be, riding into a very successful business in a few years to come, which you're already on the path to do so. So by the way, there is a Stephanie here who's saying welcome. So thank you, Stephanie. So if you have any questions for Scott, so don't hesitate to do so. Just a couple of questions for you. So because your journey is quite inspiring, because a lot of people in finance, they get stuck there. They get comfortable. They don't want to move because they can't dare, obviously, challenge the system and see how can we do things better. So you've had the courage to do so. But obviously, being an entrepreneur myself, I know that it comes at the price of huge sacrifices. Can you share some of the biggest challenges you face early on in PF Nexus and how you sort of overcame them?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I think that there's probably an awful lot of people that are in similar shoes where they're kind of thinking about starting a business and don't really know where to start. In our case, I mean, PF Nexus is essentially a marketplace. It works on those kind of marketplace sort of mechanics. You've got two sides, and this sort of a business model is quite difficult to crack. It's you're not just dealing with one customer, you've got to appease two at the same time. And so there needs to be a degree of balance, but also there's a chicken and egg situation that you need to solve first. So, for example, which side do you focus on? Do you try and attract projects first and then use those to attract investors? Or do you first start off with investors and then use those investors to attract the projects? The way that we went about it was we attracted projects first and then used those projects to attract investors to get the ball moving. But you have to choose a side, and certainly getting that started in the first place was not as easy as a lot of people may imagine. It took a lot of kind of brute force and a big hard push to kind of get things moving in the first instance.
Yeah, I can definitely correlate with that. And you're absolutely right, because I personally first heard about PF Nexus, I think probably a couple of years ago. And then I know it took you some time before you could develop it to where it is right now. And I'm insisting in saying, I think you're barely just starting. I know there's a lot more potential, especially as the industry is growing and we're looking to facilitate this movement of investment and also project that can come on board and clearly be seen by many potential investor partners, and that is great. So one more question I have for you before you can do a little demo, and I'm just going to invite, because I've received already a couple of questions I'm going to share in a minute. So can you tell us a little bit more about some of the pivotal moment or decision that really significantly shape PF Nexus? You mentioned one of them already, which was obviously, so which way do you start with? Do you start with attracting the investor or the project? I think you made a smart move by attracting the project, because there is no dearth of capital, but there's a dearth of good projects. So obviously you went after the good project and you attracted the capital. But are there any other pivotal moment that you've gone through? Maybe you can give us some information about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that one thing that really makes us stand out quite significantly compared to anybody else in the market is that we took quite a bold move quite early on to be basically open with a lot of data. So on our platform, we share some insights into around about 3,000 companies, all of which are discoverable via Google. And our user base can basically discover us in a lot of different ways through searching for things. So for example, if perhaps you are an asset manager that's just dealt with a particular renewable energy developer and you're looking for other assets like that, perhaps you Google the name of that company and then you basically discover us because we've got a page on our site about them. Alternatively, perhaps you are a developer, you're looking for investors, and you might Google something along those lines, along the lines of what are investors looking for in a particular type of market or a particular stage of the project. And we have articles on all of those things linking to the data that we've got on the platform. That was quite an instrumental decision that we made early on, and it's really starting to grow our user base as a result of that, and we're starting to kind of see the fruits of our labor.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get that to start seeing those fruits?
It's taken a little while. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got something like 4,000 pages, I think, now on our site,
Okay.
which haven't popped up overnight.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you there. So this is a little bit how we also started growing renewables in Africa. So providing good content out there and hoping, expecting that people ultimately will not after that recognize the value that of the company and what we're bringing to them. So definitely agree with that. So absolutely, that's brilliant. So Scott, I think I'd like you to run a little demo of the site, and after that there's a question. There's already a couple of questions I've received, and then on top of that I have a lot more questions personally that I also want to ask you. But maybe it's fair to just have a little demo about the so people that are watching, like I said, don't hesitate to ask questions, because the reason I want to bring Scott to you in here, we don't always get a chance to talk to founders and CEOs and understand what is the vision behind the company or the platform that they put together. So it's good to listen and hear from them, and maybe that can inspire some, and also hopefully it will help many of you to discover this platform and decide whether or not it solves many of your problems. And I believe it will, but you need to first of all see for yourself. So Scott, so let me just bring the platform, and I'm just going to go on in the backstage and allow you maybe to explain briefly to people how it works. Yeah, so that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be
Let me
happy
just
to
do
do
that.
so.
Yeah. Are you ready for me to bring it?
I am, yes.
Good. Okay. So the platform here, I'm just going to go on backstage and I'll let you crack on.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so broadly, I mean, a lot of people may discover us by landing on our site this way, and they perhaps are searching for a particular type of investor. So maybe they've got solar projects in a specific country and it's, say, shovel ready. They might be wondering what type, well, how many investors we've got to start with. So you can quickly find that out literally from the front page of the site. But it guides you straight through to being able to list it, and listing a project on our site takes only about 2 minutes. So it's very, very easy to benefit from our huge network using this site. On the site, when you come into it, to give you a bit of an idea of some of the parties on our platform, we've got 2 parts to the site. There's an ecosystem and there is a marketplace. In our ecosystem, you can see here we've listed around about 1,500 investors. We've algorithmically ranked them based on metrics that we can get digitally about these companies. And you can read a bit about them. So, for example, here we have Scartech. I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with Scartech, one of the biggest investors in Europe for renewables. You can see where they sit in our ranked ecosystem, see the latest news articles about them, find similar companies on the platform and see how they all kind of compare. You can also discover other companies by filtering for example, let's say you're looking for wind developers in a specific region, you can find that. But the most important and probably highest value part of the platform is our marketplace. So the key thing about this is that it's entirely live. So this enables you to submit your project to thousands of investors in the market and instantly start getting responses. So, for example, here we have a new battery energy storage developer in the UK, which has a portfolio of around about 1 gigawatt of projects, so a very significant pipeline. You can read a bit about the company, and just from a very short, high-level summary, you can kind of filter out the noise and, in essence, decide whether it's something that you'd like to speak to. If it is, you can just introduce yourself with the click of a button, and the email would just go straight into your inbox. And it's really that simple. So, I mean, there's two parts to our revenue model. There is a success fee element, and there's also a subscription element. You can use the platform, well, on either side. You can either use it as a project owner, you can use it as a financier or investor. And we also have a new enterprise tier that we've just added recently, which anybody interested in kind of really maximizing the value of our network should speak to a member of the team, and we can discuss that in detail with you. But hopefully that gives you a bit of an initial overview of how we work.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. It's straight and simple. Great platform to work with. As I'll say, I can personally vouch for that. That's why I wanted you to come and showcase that with people. Also, I'm going to say we find it so interesting that for us, we've decided to partner with you, and obviously we're going to probably announce it next week, and how we believe that we can help you push that forward, and more importantly, get more deal done. This is the key thing here, because a lot of projects basically just stay back at development stage, never make it, to actual realization. And this
exactly
is because you have great people, great ideas, but they just don't find the right partner. And same thing, you have money sitting there, money crying for project, but money can't obviously be associated with the right project. So whenever there are platforms that can facilitate this movement, I think we have to encourage that. Otherwise, there is no way on earth we're going to dream to reach that objective, that commitment to triple renewables energy by 2030. Just no way. So there's about innovation like that. Great. So talking about COP28. So one of the questions I received, it's here. So the person saying, so COP28 recently set hugely ambitious goal to rapidly scale up renewable energy by 2030. I think that's triple. That's what the commitment is. How is PF Nexus equipped to help mobilize the trillions in financing needed to realize these targets?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, very much central to our business model is scalability. So with this sort of a platform, of course, we can deal with thousands of investors and matching them all simultaneously. In fact, we already have thousands of emails per day going through our system. And these are not kind of small fish. These are, I think, average transaction value on our platform is around about $50 or $60 million. So we are perfectly kind of equipped to, because of the way that we've done this digitally, we can scale that to 10, 100, maybe 1,000 times what we're currently doing. But hopefully it creates a much more seamless industry. I think something that's really interesting to see was, I think Uber, probably about 10 years ago, were giving some interviews in San Francisco and discussing basically how their product had changed the industry for ride hailing. And somebody asked about the how do they consider their market cap of the company was almost equivalent to the entire market of ride-hailing in San Francisco at the time. And one thing that they'd neglected to think about was that by making an industry really seamless so that participants in a market could find one another very easily, the market actually got much bigger. So the number of people basically using ride-hailing trebled in just purely from Uber. And we're trying to do something quite similar here with renewables. So we think we can actually grow the industry by making it much more seamless to connect with one another and accelerate the speed at which these transactions can take place at.
Excellent, great response, and thanks for the question, by the way, and that was good. So let me just show. Yeah, I'm taking this to hide this one. Let me show this. Yeah, this is just Scott saying. No, sorry, not Scott. Sorry, Adam might say great insight, Scott. I think Adam looking very impressed. That's good. I think I have another question for you here that I received, which is, where do you see the biggest investment gap today in funding renewables project? Is it mobilizing institutional investors, aggregating smaller retail funds, or enabling project in specific geos?
This is a very, very good question. And I think that I'd have to say it's at the earliest stages of project development. So getting development capital is something that basically restricts regional developers. And regional developers are really key for getting renewable energy projects going in new markets. So, of course, say in Europe, there are a lot of markets which are very, very, very established, many of which where you've already got so many renewable energy projects that the grids can struggle to cope with them. But there's still a lot of markets where we are nowhere near that level yet. And in those markets, regional developers basically need the capital to be able to start scaling those early inroads into developing those projects. And that's a real pain point at the moment, something which we're focusing on trying to help.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Scott. So I have another, that's more a comment. This is Tom. Tom said interface look really easy to use, refreshing on things. So thank you for, I'm sure Scott would be happy to see that. And I think that's Adam again saying that, yeah, Tom, agreed, platform looks great. So visibly, most likely, those two would have already gone to your platform, or maybe they may be current user of the platform. So, but that's great. We like to have more people just like that. So one more question that I received for you is this: what innovative investment vehicle, partnership, or financial engineering does PF Nexus plan to leverage to accelerate capital deployment into renewables this decade?
It's a good question. I mean, partnerships are definitely an area in which we're focusing on. I think that the industry really has to come together, and if it's to benefit the most from having kind of centralized hubs like this, essentially. So partnerships are something that we're leveraging more and more. Hence, how we're talking today, and very proud to be partnering with renewables in Africa. But also, I mean, in the industry as a whole, it's interesting to note that there is a move towards partnerships in general. So say last year and the year before, and when we started the company, we were actually focusing on individual project transactions. But the market is trending towards both dealing with portfolios a lot more and partnerships, because in a market where it's now a little bit more difficult to find a partner to, behind basically a participant to transact with, you kind of want to hold on to them when you get them and really scale together. And that's something which is designed on both sides of the transaction. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, excellent. I definitely agree with you. So the partnership, the collaboration, it's what going to help us to move forward, because each of us, we may hold what I usually say, part of the truth. But if we come together, we can actually build the whole piece. I have a personal question for you, which is how has the services and offerings of PF Nexus evolved since the inceptions in order for you to meet the changing needs of the renewable energy market? Because it's a very dynamic market. It's growing. So new things, for example, we're talking about storage, we're talking about hydrogen, we're talking about e-mobility.
Yeah,
So how has, and I'm sure when you started, we didn't have all those different options, or at least evolving at that scale and speed, right? Because
yeah,
at the moment, hydrogen, for example, is a little bit like what offshore wind was, a couple of years ago. Yeah.
yeah,
But with offshore wind maturing, hydrogen now is this new kid on the block? Oh, kind of new kid, because the process was already there, but they say the production is what is actually new. But anyway, it's a new kid on the block, and you can't ignore it. So how is your platform coping with that in terms of services and offering? So how do you adapt it?
yeah. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. There's always it's a really dynamic market, and things are always changing. I think that once you solve the bottleneck in one area, another bottleneck pops up somewhere else, which is inevitable with any fast-growing market. But in the case of renewables, we've seen that as markets get more and more solar, then they end up needing more battery. But also hydrogen is kind of also stepping in to kind of fill a gap in the market. It's a new technology. It's growing very, very quickly. And basically for us, this is just a case of adding new subcategories onto our site. So hydrogen is a very rapidly growing area on the site. It's seeing a lot of interest currently. Also, battery energy storage system developers is also in a similar way very key and rapidly growing on the site.
Excellent. So I'm happy to hear that. So we have a question from Adam who's saying, I was interested in understanding, so maybe you haven't finished your sentence there, Adam, but I could see, does AI have a big part? Oh yeah, we can't ignore AI, right? That's another another element that's definitely with platform like yours. You get anyway. I'll let you respond. Uh, is AI playing a big part in PF Nexus future outlook?
Yeah, we get asked this a lot. So, I mean, the interesting thing is that AI typically is, it looks back at historical data that's available. And based on that, it's good at making assumptions or using that data. And there's some things in marketplaces which can benefit a lot from AI. And there's other areas which basically AI can't help so much with. So with the nature of a marketplace, you've got live supply and live demand at all times. These are things which you can't use history really and historical data to predict. So it's not something which is so disruptable or really that you can really benefit so much from AI. However, there's other parts of what we do which can really benefit quite a lot. So, for example, in the market currently for renewable energy developers, one of the most important things to the company is understanding the value of the assets that they're developing. And in the market currently, everybody's blind. Nobody can see centrally any price for any market of what is the going rate for that type of asset. That's exactly something, though, which AI can help with. So we're looking to basically incorporate that into the platform and start giving insights into predicting and giving an indication to asset owners of what their asset is likely to be worth.
Yeah, that's a great response, and thank you, Adam, for the question. Was a great question there. I have another one that I received, which is looking ahead to 2030. How can platform like PF Nexus best facilitate underground execution and ensure funded projects translate into actual clean megawatts? We kind of already responded to that, but maybe you want to repeat, because the thing is, I appreciate that some of the people may be joining the live, after we started, but maybe you want to repeat so how PF
Yeah.
Nexus is making that happen.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about this earlier, and I think it's very key, especially in emerging markets in general, where you have a lot of people that are talking about projects, but some are kind of essentially better at executing than others. and to make sure that you're making the best partnerships with teams that are fully capable and able to execute and kind of make the deal go ahead efficiently. You need some sort of level of visibility of that. We're trying to tackle that with new features that we're launching around ratings and rankings on the site. So kind of if we go back to the Uber comparison, with Uber, you've got like a ranking, say it's a ride-hailing app, and you've got a ranking of being able to see how much you can trust people on the other side. In a similar way, on our platform, we are starting to rank the responsiveness of people on the platform to make sure that you're dealing with somebody who is likely to interact with you fast and give fast responses. They're rated professionally by other people that interact with them, and basically encouraging high quality interactions so that things get done faster.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I think that was a great question, effectively. So I have another question for you, which is your platform is global, from what I understand, right? So you're touching on projects across the world. So where are most of the projects coming from are based on, and what are you doing to rebalance things so that clearly you can get a lot more? Because I would like to think, or at least that's the way I would like to see that, if I put myself into the shoes of an investor. So if I have such a platform, it's a one-stop shop that gives me a vision on the world. That's a great interest. So that means, especially those big investors in those sectors, they will invest as well as in Europe, in Africa, in Americas. Some of these guys. So, and I'm sure something like that. You've thought about that. So, how is the platform organized at the moment? So, what area is most represented, and what are you doing? That's about the more important question. What are you doing to rebalance things so that it can really reflect the world in here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there certainly is an imbalance in the market. You've got basically quite a focus currently around Europe for renewable energy. And in fact, if you were to kind of tally up the total capacity installed of existing renewable energy plants, the vast majority is currently in Europe. So it needs to be focused elsewhere a lot more. When you look at the size of the opportunity, it's interesting to note that around about 2/3 of the global opportunity is an emerging market, which is currently extremely underrepresented in terms of operational capacity. So something that we're seeing is, first off, we look at kind of demand and supply. So breaking it into these two parts, where is the supply of projects coming from and where is the demand? It seems that in some markets you have an excess of demand and an insufficient supply of projects, and in some you have lots of supply of projects and insufficient demand. Matching the two, there's a bit of an overlap in between, and there's kind of a frontier where there's basically high activity. This frontier is constantly moving because, say, for example, you have countries in the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe and things like this, where they currently don't have much capacity, but there is a lot of investment demand for them. And these are constantly changing. So every few months, we see companies talking more and more about basically moving in a southern and eastward sort of direction from the west. That's where a lot of the investment currently is coming from the west. But yeah, the projects they're investing in is generally kind of sweeping across and down to the south. Yeah, which is promising for the African continent.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I think, like I usually say, so this is a global industry. Most of the time, what we see is actors and players that you see in one area on one continent will end up also being present in most of the others. So that's what I see. So that's for us. When we talk about people that want to invest in Africa, we're actually talking to the world because we know that they represent it everywhere. Let me just pick up a couple of other questions before we actually wrap up, if that's good, because I think we're coming close to the time. It's been quite quick already. So this is Tom saying, Scott, do you think PF Nexus has the inherent responsibility to ensure the green credential of project on the platform? So how do you approach this? Very tricky questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, with what we do, we are focused on renewable energy projects, which inherently are, of course, green. It's clean energy that they produce. One part of, at the moment, I think it's worth noting that we focus on relationships. So the interactions and connecting the right individuals that work in the organizations behind either the investment side or the project side. But going forward, we're starting to import more and more data so that the due diligence process has a bit of transparency and basically can be done easier. So pulling in some of the relevant certifications, the licenses, etc., to kind of give some additional insight and clarity into basically the exact conditions of the projects in question.
Excellent. So, and last question here that we're going to take because we need to wrap up. It's, hi Scott, that's Oluwich. Could you provide more detail on the process of developers connecting with? That's a good question, actually, practical question. Connecting with potential investors for renewables energy deal. I'm particularly interested in understanding how the platform facilitate connection of both. I think ready to build in greenfield. Yeah, I guess it's yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we've tried to make this as seamless as possible on the platform. We know that investors are extremely busy in this market. It's hard to get their time, and so you have to make the most of it when you have it. We believe that our tool is basically allowing them to reduce the amount of noise in their day. So rather than, I mean, I used to work in this industry and I used to be one of these people. I would find that for every 10 deals that come across my desk, only about one of them is relevant. We're basically building the tool so that they can cut through all of that noise and increase that ratio much, much higher to projects that are very relevant to them in a very familiar way as well. So using tools which work in ways that we're all used to using on other websites. And the forms that we use to kind of collect data are very simple. They're very intuitive. They customize themselves based on data that we already have on users, and really streamline the process. So you can now submit a project in around about 2 minutes to our platform. The actual process after a project is submitted on the platform would be that within 2 days, typically, somebody from our team would be in touch. They would review the details that have been submitted. They may ask additional questions where needed, where there's any kind of gaps in information or anything missing. They would check that you're investor ready. So they would check the quality of documents that you've got. Perhaps if there's a financial model, is there a teaser available? And they would kind of basically kick the tires and check that everything's okay. From that point, we'd get an agreement in place, and we would schedule you to go live on the platform, which would mean that your project would get emailed directly into the inboxes of several thousand investors as a starting point. And it really kind of goes from there.
Yeah, excellent. And I can definitely also vouch for that because I know that even, let's say, territory of country that's allegedly are not always as attractive as others. So basically, you were giving them the opportunity to find some investors. I can say that we had a couple of projects from Zimbabwe, and I know we talked already to a few investors that you help us connect with. So that is great. So quick question. I said that was the last question, but let me squeeze in one more quickly, which you can respond hopefully quickly. So how many projects do you receive a day or a week? You can choose whatever the time frame here for you, but just for people a little bit here, for I guess for investors who may then be interested to see how attractive that's for them.
Yeah, so I mean, this is increasing really rapidly, and it's partly because of our position in the market, but also partly because of the market itself. projects are kind of starting to hit that level of maturity where they're looking for maybe a buyer or they're looking for an investor. And as a result, we're getting around about typically 1 or 1.5 projects per day average currently, increasing very rapidly. But these are utility scale projects. And as I say, the straight average size is around about $50–60 million. So hopefully gives you a bit of an insight into kind of what we're seeing.
Excellent, excellent. Well, listen, I started by saying that we are top 28 at the moment. And I started by saying that our innovation, what you just done here at PF Nexus, the platform, it's hugely important for the sector to move forward in order for us to meet the commitment that we need to actually deliver in order to achieve the objective, the 1.5-degree objective that you're all talking about here. Now, you know that COP28 at the moment, but what I didn't tell you is you are at COP28 talking to our platform here. So imagine you're talking to leaders at COP28 at the moment. So I just want to give you 1 minute. That's my challenge for you. 1 minute to pitch them and to tell them, why PF Nexus or there's a similar kind of technology. It's one of the tools that they need to make sure that they can reach this objective of tripling renewables by 2030. I've said that to all the guests that I've had this week, and I also want to obviously challenge you on that. So you have 1 minute. I'm just going to go on the backstage. So what do you have to say to them to convince them? So off you go.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so I think I'd say something along the lines of that this is a huge market and it's one that's super important to the future of humanity. It's something that we can't mess up. We can't spend our time kind of tripping over each other's toes and wasting time barking up the wrong trees, speaking with the wrong projects. So PF Nexus is allowing the market to connect with exactly the right types of projects that are relevant to them, really allowing them to focus on delivering projects rather than just chatting about them. This is something that the whole industry needs. And the more that the industry moves onto a centralized approach like this, the more efficiencies there are to gain, and the faster the speed at which we can roll out these projects and move from one project to the next to the next.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And I'm sure they have been listening. So don't be surprised if you receive a call, right? So, by the way, what does the PF stand for?
It's for project finance.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay. Well, Scott Gidham, I think it was great for me to have you on the platform today on the show and to learn more about PF Nexus, that you've put together a platform that is growing rapidly. So unlocking investment, that's literally what it's meant to do, and bringing interesting projects to develop. So we are really privileged to work with you. And like I say, we're going to be making an announcement next week. But I wanted, first of all, to have you here on the show, people to understand what is this famous platform everybody's talking about. So thank you very much for that. And you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Really appreciate it. Have an excellent day. And thanks for the invite.
Thank you. So you have obviously now heard about Scott, right? And was very important to listen to everything he has to say. And as I was saying, as COP28 rallies world leaders talking about tripling renewables energy globally to double energy efficiency, people like Scott Gidham, what they do, they offer living proof that profit and sustainability can go hand in hand. And with climate action accelerating as we enter to a decisive decade, so the potential for renewables finance to transform economies, it grows even more and more. It becomes even more electric, yeah? But challenges remain to channel enough investment towards wind, towards solar, towards hydrogen, towards storage, and so on and so forth. Game-changing green technology that we've yet to discover or maybe exploit in order for us to realize the Paris Agreement's aim. And learning how PF Nexus drive momentum through good governance, accountability and transparency, catalyzing investors, small and large, back-to-back project. It's really so I need you to be part of the solution and to discover how PF Nexus can navigate the renewable energy landscape to operationalize the sustainable project and fit the 1.5 degree emission pathway that we have laid. So I'm very happy for you to supporting us. You know, I want to thank you for all the time that you've given us, and I give you another rendezvous on Sunday where we're going to have another session, right? And then you have a great week, and we see you another time. So thank you very much, and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.